I'm Craig Foreman. I'm the Heat Smart coach for Heat Smart Newton. Heat Smart Newton is a City of Newton program, and we're sponsored by a state grant that comes to us through the Mass Clean Energy Center, the CEC, and the Department of Environmental Resources, and we're appreciative to have this grant because it's really allowed us to focus on heat pump technology for the home. And we've mainly focused on heating and cooling because heat pumps are great for heating and cooling. But there's another thing that they do that we're also promoting, which is hot water. And we haven't focused a lot on hot water, but I've invited a Newton resident, Peter, to be with us today. And Peter just installed a heat pump hot water heater, and I just wanted to talk with him and ask him a few questions about it. And Peter, welcome.
Thank you, Craig. Happy to be here and talk about water heating.
Great. So tell me, Peter, what prompted you to install a heat pump water heater?
So we moved into our circa 1900 house about 5 years ago, knowing that the house was a little bit out of date, needed quite a bit of work to be done to it. And we'd hoped to do a lot of that pretty soon after moving in. But now 5 years later, instead of having done a lot of that work, we now have two kids, which has kept us pretty busy for those 5 years. But we've been heating with oil, an old oil boiler with steam radiators and an indirect water heater. And we're really interested in figuring out how to modernize our house and update it in a way that's going to both save us money, be more comfortable, and also have environmental benefits to help us reduce our own carbon footprint, which is important to our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been trying to figure out a plan for how to do this, and certainly it's complicated to make these changes in a home. But we had the fortune or lack of fortune of our water heater starting to leak during the Heat Smart campaign, and as the leak got bigger and bigger, we had been watching what Heat Smart Newton's been doing and trying to figure out how that could be supportive of our plans to modernize our home. So we talked to some of the installers through Heat Smart that have been vetted about options for transitioning to a heat pump water heater, and we have a great basement for it, unfinished basement, and got a couple of quotes, and it seemed like the right choice. I mean, I think it's always a little bit difficult to change from one fuel to another because we had heating oil. We had to have some electrical work done prior to doing that, but now we have a water heater that's more comfortable, more consistent with temperature. We have a better water supply, and I think it's saving us some money over oil. And we're going to be able to turn our oil boiler off during the winter. And so yeah, we're happy to have a modern technology in our basement that we can kind of monitor and adjust as we need from our smartphones, and we're happy all around on it.
That's great. So if I understand you correctly, your hot water heater prior to this was not a hot water tank as we think of it. It was an add-on to your furnace, to your oil-fired furnace. Is that correct?
Yeah, an indirect water heater, which I think were pretty common. So you basically have to turn on the whole boiler, which is this huge boiler that heats the house with steam to heat up water even in the summertime. So we'd have that be running in the meantime throughout that.
Did you have trouble finding room for the hot water heater tank?
No, we have like an 800 square foot house footprint, and so unfinished basement, mostly a workshop. There was actually the old owner left a great big electric water heater in there that was disconnected for the last 20 years, and we moved that one out and put the new one where that one was. And one thing that I didn't expect was when we replumbed it in a way that was shortened the hot water pipes by maybe 15 feet. So instead of taking a minute for hot water to get to the shower, now it takes 20 seconds or 30 seconds. So by making those plumbing changes, it's a lot more quicker response for our water heating in the house.
Well, that's a nice little benefit. I also understand that on these heat pump water heaters like you got, they are offering rebates to customers who either had formerly an electric water heater or I believe an oil water heater. They just changed that. Not a gas, but yeah.
Yeah, I was paying attention to that and hoping to get a mass save incentive for it. I mean, unfortunately, the mass save incentives are limited to the smallest options for tanks.
Oh, I
I
see.
think it's 50 gallons
Yep.
or less. With a family of four, we thought we needed something a little bit bigger than that. So unfortunately, we didn't qualify. I'm still not sure why mass save isn't giving incentives for the higher capacity ones. And I think, from what I've heard about heat pump water heaters, it's nice to have a slightly larger tank if you want to sort of stick with the heat pump component of it. Ours does have electric resistance coils in it, which I think is what HeatSmart's supporting, which allows it to put out a lot of heat really quickly if you need it. But we were trying to maximize efficiency, so we run on the heat pump mode to really keep the electricity down to just a little trickle to keep it heating. So we unfortunately weren't able to get the
Mhm.
rebate for it, but
Right. I now that I think about it, I remember that the limit is 55 gallons. So that the heater that you bought, which is I believe the Rheem Proterra model, is that correct? Yeah, and that's
yeah, we went off the recommendation of HeatSmart because we knew it was sort of a vetted technology, but we got the 80 gallon
yeah.
version.
We really like that heater because it is the latest technology. It's very efficient. And by the way, the rebate, if you have either oil or electricity for your old water heater, the rebate is $600 if it's 55 gallons or less, which means you could get the 40-gallon model or the 50-gallon model. Unfortunately, if you're switching from gas, there's no rebate. So hopefully over the next few years, if we really want to promote this stuff, we'll hopefully allow these rebates to be a little more flexible than they are now.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, even I know it's going to save us money even without the rebate, but just having a little extra kicker in there is a nice to have thing. But I'm I feel pretty confident that we're going to be saving money based on the efficiency of it.
Right now, tell me, when you did the installation, first of all, did you use a plumber that you had worked with before, or did you go to one of the Heat Smart partner installers? You don't have to tell us who it is, but
Yeah, so I did talk with Muirfield Mechanical through HeatSmart, and
yeah,
they were great and they gave some recommendations. I ultimately decided to purchase the heat pump water heater myself and have our existing plumber do it, which I think is an okay pathway to do. I mean, we've been working with this plumber for years. That being said, I think it did require me to sort of play the role of coordinating the project of, you know, deciding where to install it, to coordinate electrical work independently,
yeah,
to order it, to kind of store it until they're ready to do the work. So there's certain maybe you get some price benefit by sort of coordinating that work
mhm,
yourself, but it certainly there's some work you have to do by not using a sort of turnkey installer like HeatSmart spends
of course.
providing.
Um, when you did the installation, did you end up putting in a condensate pump, which most people do?
Yeah, we did. So we pretty easy. I mean, that was another thing that I did on my own because I didn't go through the HeatSmart installer, but I ordered a condensate pump for I think it was $40 off of Amazon,
Mhm.
and it feeds right up from the water heater into the sewer drain pipe above, PVC drain pipe. So it works pretty well. Haven't we actually have a separate dehumidifier in the basement, so we don't have a there probably not as much condensation as we would have had previously, but yeah, pretty easy solution. Tied right into the existing drain.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll need to run that dehumidifier anymore because I understand the heat pump water heaters do a pretty good job of dehumidifying, at least in the area nearby.
Yeah, it's we had a humidifier in mostly for the summertime when there's a lot of moisture. I think our our massive steam heating system in the basement does keep it pretty dry in there in the winter. So yeah, I think I'm kind of curious to see in the summertime if we can turn it off entirely and
Yeah,
uh,
so that's good. So, and in an 80-gallon heater, that's a pretty large heater as it goes. Most people probably 50 is probably the most common size. But for your family of four, you felt like the eight, is that what you had before? Well, you didn't have a tank before, but did you feel like an 80-gallon was the size you really needed?
I was a little bit playing it on the safe side. I mean, I think we had some, our indirect water here, I think was 40 gallons or 50 maybe. And it did not always have enough water for, if we did a bath and a shower in a row.
Mhm.
So we went on the larger side. I mean, we have a kind of a growing family, so knowing that we'd have this system for 10 or 15 years before replacing it, kind of wanted to make sure we were covered. Also, I think, um, being a somewhat newer technology, if we wanted to run in heat pump mode, knowing that it might have a slower recovery than a traditional system, wanted to upsize it just a little bit, so that we could maximize the high efficiency operation of it. And there's a great app on my phone that you can monitor the performance. And I think I've tried some different settings. You can, here's the, oops, you can't really see it very well,
That's great. Yeah, I see it. Yeah. So you
you
got
can,
120 degrees. Yeah.
yep, and you can monitor the energy performance on a daily basis, which is phenomenal. And when I've tried different settings, you can get, you can see how much electricity it's using. I keep it on the very lowest setting, which has been great. But it's
Hmm.
a huge amount of data coming from there. There's every day for the month.
Hmm.
Some variability depending if we're doing laundry or if it's bath night for the kids. Um, so it's been kind
You,
of neat to pay attention to, and
you
also to
check
see
on
how
your
little.
kids and make sure they're taking their showers when they say.
Well, I mean, they're 2 and 4, so hopefully they're just not
Oh
doing
yeah.
it
Okay.
on
Um,
their own. But yeah.
I wanted to just ask you one other question about the installation. These heat pump water heaters, you can use venting to vent them to the outside, either for the intake or the outtake, understanding that they will lower the temperature in the environment by maybe 7 to probably 12 or 13 degrees if you need that. Did you do any venting, or did you just install it without venting?
So yeah, like I said, we have a pretty big unfinished basement, 800 square feet, and it's has steam pipes running around it. So I've done some work to try to improve the air tightness in the basement, and the consequence of that is sometimes our basement can be like 85 degrees in the winter, which is not good for efficiency. It's not good for comfort. So we just let it kind of run in the basement. It cools it down just a little bit, which is great. Sooner or later, we're hoping to transition the house entirely to heat pumps and get rid of our boiler, but we'll
Yeah.
still have some unfinished space down there.
Mhm.
And I think it'll be a good balance. But we didn't have to do any venting, and I think for a lot of homes in Newton where you've got unfinished basements and maybe an existing boiler or furnace down there that puts off a little bit of residual heat. It seems like a great option for kind of balancing that out and running in the basement. So we didn't have to do any venting, but I've heard
Right.
it's definitely a possibility if needed.
Were there any other special installation issues that arose, or do you feel like the installation is something that pretty much any plumber could do without any special training?
Yeah, I think it didn't seem much more difficult than electric resistance water heater. I mean, the only, which is like a pretty straightforward thing, the only difference being the condensation pump, but that was, so I probably could have done that on my own if I wanted. The one big thing we had to do was we were going to do it anyhow, but we had 100 amp electrical service in our house that we upgraded to 200 amps as part of this.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary for the heat pump, but we're planning to make some other changes, as I mentioned, with getting an electric vehicle charger in the next couple of years, transitioning our home to heat pump heating. So we knew we'd have to do it sooner or later. So we did it now. It allowed us to also get a larger panel than our sort of very old existing one. And off that panel, we ran a new circuit for the
Yeah.
water heater at 220 volts, which um, wasn't a big deal. I mean, there's costs with doing it. It's a pretty standard thing, but there are costs with upgrading. But it'll be a good thing for the house. It'll be a good thing for us. It makes life a lot easier, and it's certainly, I think, it's important. I think it's reflected in a home value to have a better electrical service if people sell their homes. But
We're definitely moving to the all electric home, and everybody's going to need, more electricity available than they have now. But you're all set for your heat pump heating and cooling system when you're ready now.
yeah, part of it's like I mentioned, we have steam heat, and we have a couple of window units we put in for that month or two in the summer when it's too hot. But we're realizing as the climate gets hotter, we're gonna want air conditioning in the home, and not have to be moving the window units around. So I think the cheapest option for us is to go with a heat pump for the home, because running ductwork would be exorbitantly expensive. So putting a ductless heat pump system in the house is really the best solution, the most cost-effective solution for us. And plus, we'll get high efficiency, environmentally friendly, lower cost heating out of it, and a greater level of comfort. So we're pretty excited about that. But that's a story for another day, perhaps.
Right. And so, how long has your heat pump water heater been operational now?
It's been a little over 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
last day of November.
a lot of people are concerned with, well, the noise of these. How would you rate the noise level when it's running?
It's quieter than our fossil fuel water heater,
Mhm.
which is great. I mean, you can certainly hear it when the fan turns on, but it's quite quiet. I mean, it's our basement is not insulated, so you can hear it a little bit in the, if you're above it, but you could hear the fossil fuel water heater much more easily. It was much louder than that. So it's a little bit quieter. It's like a gentle hum. It sort of sounds like a computer off in the corner of a room or something with the fan on or something like that. But
Right.
so definitely not disruptive. Just sort of part of the house
Right.
at this point.
And
And
I see that you've really taken the remote control through your cell phone to heart and really monitor it. I mean, that's a lot of people wouldn't do that, but does it give you some useful information?
yeah, I think I've always really liked these technologies, different, trying to understand how they're working. I'm an engineer by training, and I kind of like to uh, see how much energy I'm using and monitor that. We all, a lot of us pay thousands of dollars a year for energy, and trying to figure out how to reduce that value and how to do it in a way that's environmentally friendly. So I really do enjoy kind of seeing that it is operating efficiently and that I can prove it
Yeah.
there. And I know if I, one of these days, if we ever have family come over again, we can, crank it up if we need to get some extra hot water output from it. But it's a really modern uh, way to handle this. And I think, I knew I've always been a little bit environmentally focused, and I'd always knew I'd take a shower, I'd be burning oil to heat up that water. But now we purchase our electricity through the town's um, power choice program, and I know that all that electricity is clean electricity, so I can take a shower and know that it's coming from renewable energy, and that's a pretty neat transition for us.
Yeah, that is that's the main thing we're trying to emphasize in the program is just getting away from fossil fuels and onto clean electricity. Um, as far as maintenance, I understand that really all you have to do is take the filter out and wash it once in a while. Is that the way you understand it?
Yeah, I mean it's easier, it's an improvement for us in terms of ease. I mean, we need to get oil Phillips. I mean, we have an automated, we have the oil company come once a month now, and they were doing it through the summer. So that was, it wasn't a big inconvenience, but we had to, I had to kind of keep thinking about that. But, so it's actually easier now. We just kind of run it, and, I'll keep an eye on the filter every once in a while, but it's pretty plug and play. And, it feels like an improvement in terms of ease of use and functionality, like all around. So it feels
That's
like a
great.
step in the right direction.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And even though you didn't use a Heat Smart, partner installer, which is fine, did Heat Smart Newton help you somehow in finding the heater and getting it done?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think, uh, I mean, I do a lot of research on this, but a lot of people we're talking to the contractors that come in for recommendations about what to install. And I think having a trusted source like Heat Smart Newton and the resources that you guys put together helped like figure out what the right model is, sort of inform me that this product is front and center and answer a lot of my questions on it, which I think was really helpful and kind of gave me a little bit of a kick in the butt to make the right choice when the time came. I mean, I think we're um, that our current water heater started to fail during the campaign was, that it was timely, but I think like otherwise, I would have probably used that information from Heat Smart to make this decision next year when we were doing some other work on our house to use a heat pump water heater.
Right. Well, that's good. I mean, everybody doesn't need a new heating system or a hot water heater right now, but hopefully with the Heat Smart campaign, we're giving them information, we're opening their eyes and ears to this. And when it comes time, they'll think about it. Just like when it comes time to replace their car, people should be thinking about buying an electric car rather than a gas-powered vehicle. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think you got to wait for the right time when you're either, undertaking a renovation of your home, or when your system's kind of getting to the end of the life. It's like we've got some neighbors who've done solar and kind of add that on any time, but for a lot of these systems, you got to try to do it at the right time, that sort of fits in with your schedule. I think that's important acknowledgement. Like, you can't undertake all this at once, but sort of making the right choices when that time comes, I think, is important. I'm trying to plan ahead, so that other changes, if it's our 11-year-old car, is still doing fine, but I think in a year or two we're gonna probably plan to upgrade to electric vehicle, and we're going to be, like I said, redoing our roof, and that's a time where we're looking at adding solar to our roof. So it's like, when that right time comes, that's what I'm looking to pull the trigger. I think that's going to be the most cost effective for us, and really make it not an incremental burden above what we would have been doing anyhow, to make the right
Well,
choice.
Peter, congratulations on taking this first step. I know there's a lot more you'll be doing and thinking about in the coming years, but this is a great start. And I'm really glad that you were able to share with some of our other Newton residents who might be thinking about a heat pump water heater about your experience, which seems like it's been really good.
Yeah, we're certainly excited about it. It's been a great process, and easier than I thought in a lot of ways. And I think I really appreciate the hard work you guys have been doing to put this campaign together, get the information out there, and make it easy for people to make the right choice.
All right, Peter. Well, that's great. Thanks so much. I'm going to pause the recording now.